Hey everybody, welcome to ProBROknow. I'm not going to say three brothers, three opinions. I think people know by now what it is. Yeah, I think people know what it is by now. So it's a podcast.
I'm a brother, just in case anyone wanted to know.
He's the youngest.
I'm not a brother.
No, you're a brother.
You're a
We're all
brother.
brothers.
Might have been a different mother.
We're three brothers.
Three brothers.
Yeah.
Oh, how many opinions do we have?
Well, Chad got the only really opinion.
I've got the only important
Three
one,
brothers,
so it's
one opinion, and three topics.
One informed opinion.
One person who's very opinionated.
Yes.
Perfect.
One informed opinion and three topics.
So welcome to Chad Podcast. His opinion matters most.
Yes, that's it.
So our topic today is going to be...
Are you going to ask how we're doing, or?
No, I don't really care how you're doing.
Okay.
So
Chad, you?
I'm well. How are you?
guys,
Thanks
I
for
don't
asking.
know if you knew this, but I was talking. So the topic today is...
No, just hang on, just real quick. Wait.
Yeah,
Are
just-
you?
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The
Apologies.
topic today,
Sure.
kitchen glitches. Now your
I
turn.
want to understand what you mean when you say kitchen glitches.
Well, we all do things in the kitchen, whether it's a cooking mishap, an injury in the kitchen, a brain fart where your brain's not working in the kitchen.
Okay.
And it just adds up to a lot of different comical things that happen in the kitchen. So I'm going to call it kitchen glitches.
This is why I don't let you cook for me.
Oh, yeah. Well, there you go.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of cooking, we did actually cook last weekend. I don't know if it's appropriate to
You
talk.
Oh, no. We only see. No, see, we're not even going to go there.
Actually,
See?
yeah, I would like to talk about. We
We didn't have a steak on.
I heard about this.
Oh,
That's a kitchen glitch
horrible.
for sure.
Yeah, well, okay, so let me start.
Okay, well,
glitch.
yeah.
But first, let's just dive in. Okay.
Okay.
We'll hit it. Let's
Fine.
dive in. Since
I love how I did the segue into this. This is beautiful.
it is beautiful.
It's great.
So since Spence brought this up, it is embarrassing. So you guys know at one of the podcasts we did on barbecuing,
Yes.
you ribbed me for the whole podcast because I have my marinades and blah blah blah, and I said my steak is one of
Yes.
the best ones. People love
agree.
it. Okay. So had
I think
Spence.
we've got the answer on that now, though.
Yes, I did not prove myself. It was highly embarrassing. So I had Spence and Tina over for dinner. I said I'll get some nice steaks.
How was it, Spence?
Well, let continue. Charles.
I go to the Sobeys meat counter and I get the AAA sterling silver, what I thought were ribeye steaks.
Okay.
So he had this huge these two huge ribeye steaks in the thing, and I said those are massive. I don't need them that big. So if you can cut them down, I'll take 4 of them. And brought them home and I marinated them. As Tina and Spence said, unless they were lying, the flavor was good, but I was disappointed. They weren't super tender. And I thought they should be really good. They're ribeyes. They should be amazing. And they just weren't. And then Spencer said, "Are you sure you got ribeyes and not rib steak?"
Yeah, because they didn't taste like ribeye whatsoever.
And at that moment, my world collapsed and I thought, oh my God, I bought rib steaks and not ribeye steaks. So they were not the same. I will not buy rib steaks again because they were just not very good.
So on a scale of toughness, Spence?
1 out of 10.
Is 10 being the toughest?
10 being,
What a 10.
they were not a 10, but they were probably up there.
They were, yeah.
7, maybe. 10 being tough.
9.5.
No, they weren't that bad. But
It's
no,
probably
it was
9 1/4.
but it was bad. Spence knows. I was like, oh, like seriously.
That's probably an easy mistake that somebody could make.
Well, but
I think not a good one. Not a good one to make when you're trying to prove how good your steak is.
it ticked me off because they weren't cheap. I spent a lot of money on the steaks, and I thought, we'll have a nice dinner. And then
I think you just saw rib and you were just in your brain. This is a brain fart you talked about earlier.
Yeah.
I think your brain just said, oh, it's a ribeye. Because you saw rib and you just grabbed it.
I did, and they were round and they were thick, and I thought, okay, it's a ribeye. I'm not even sure why I did that, but
I, though, on the other hand, was it Sunday? Sunday.
yes, Sunday,
I actually bought some ribeyes.
Oh,
Because I was like, yeah, let me.
just to rub it in,
No,
just
not
to
to rub it in,
really,
show
just
them how
to-
it was done.
just
just
to
to
kick
say-
more sand in the wound.
You don't really need to marinate a ribeye, and we can just do salt and pepper, and we're just gonna put it on the Q, and we're gonna slice it thin and make little kind of steak sandwiches with
Sounds good.
garlic spread, and yeah, they were
They were good. I gave you full credit
juicy, tender, nicely crusted on the outside.
Non-marinated. Wow.
No,
for it. And I take full responsibility for my mishap. It was
Yeah.
it was crappy. It was a very expensive mishap.
So,
but for the record,
Spence
you,
won.
you were the best steak.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not
clearly.
even a-
Well, you're
not even
comparing.
a- yeah, I
you're
know.
comparing a rib
It's
steak
not really a fair
and a rib
comparison
eye.
at
They
all.
were very gracious in there. Oh
Yeah.
no, the flavor's good. No, like the flavor's awesome.
Well, I did take acting when I was in a lot of theater in
As
school.
they're like chewing each piece for 10 minutes. Oh,
Yeah.
the flavor's good. It's really good. So
So is that why you brought up this topic today, or not? You
no,
Spence
that's
sort
I
of
actually
sandbagged
wasn't
you
going
with
to
that
go there, but Spence wanted to.
It was too easy. It teed it
Reimburse
up.
me.
No.
one. Well, what did you want to talk about then?
Just mishaps. So
Like, what about like cutting yourself in the kitchen?
all of the above. So
Okay.
I'll tell you one for me. It was outside of the kitchen. I was barbecuing, but still a cooking story. But just those moments where your brain just for whatever reason isn't engaging, or there's a separation from brain and body at that moment. But I lifted my barbecue. I just preheated it so it's nice and hot. It's probably 500 degrees, and the lid's a little loose. So in my brain, I open the lid and I look at the corner screw and I think, oh well, yeah, it's just loose. I just have to tighten that. And without even thinking about it, I reached in and grabbed the screw that was 500 degrees and tried to turn it. And I had the screw lines like embedded in my
Ouch.
fingers. And it's just one of those moments where your brain does not engage for that brief moment. And even as you're reaching in, you can almost hear your brain going, no, but you still do it. You still grab that hot thing. So that's an example of a kitchen glitch or
I see.
a mishap in a kitchen.
Well, I know certainly I've actually on the barbecue, I've had a fry pan sitting there and you've maybe taken off whatever it is, you got it on the side, just, cooling down or whatever. And then you decide it's time to take the fry pan off the barbecue and without thinking, just reach and, I'll just grab it by the handle. It's
And you've done that, grab the handle.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Ouch.
Yeah, it hurt.
I don't think I've ever done that, but I've stuck my fingers in hot oil on the stove before.
Oh,
that was a treat.
Yeah, that's much better than grabbing the hot pan.
I think when you get a burn, it's like the gift that keeps giving.
Oh, it's
because
awful.
it just doesn't stop burning.
Yeah, I love how you run your hands under cold water and it feels good. And then the second you take them out, it's just burning.
It gets
scorched.
hotter.
Yeah, it does.
You feel the buildup. Yeah, I bet I did that. I think I was frying some eggplant for like an eggplant parm. And
Aren't you fancy?
yeah, well, first off, I probably shouldn't have had as much oil as I had in the pan. But anyways, I was just whatever. I wanted to just do them. And I was, putting them in slowly so that they wouldn't splash up. And then I don't know if Tina or someone said something or I looked, I got distracted. And as I was looking and talking, I was still like in middle sort of, motion of putting one in the pan. And I kept doing it. I didn't just stop. I kept doing it and I was looking at them. And then as I was putting it in, I actually could feel as if you just got your hand in water and we're just like splashing it around like you're just in the bath or something, just running your hand in there. And my brain recognized like, why do you feel liquid there? Like what's going on? And then
Was
there
your skin liquefying?
yeah,
Yeah.
and there was no
Yes.
pain at that moment. It was just like a weird realization, like, why am I feeling wet, like liquid or something? And then it was like, then everything kind of like the glitch stopped, and it was
Yep.
like, ah! And I pulled my fingers out, and it was like my skin was melted.
Oh, it's
Oh,
awful.
It was
That's bad.
It was so horrible.
and that pain.
Oh my god! And but you know what's crazy? That was like on two fingers. I think it was like on my middle finger and then the index. And it took, I bet, a month to heal because it got
yeah.
really hard where I couldn't even really feel the skin as it was healing, and then like big chunks of my skin were just ripping off for the new skin underneath. But when I first burnt it, like for I think the next whatever, it felt like 26 hours. It was just like this heat that was radiating right from my hand.
Throbbing. Yep.
And then I thought to myself, this is just two fingers. What about someone who was like in a fire and they get like 70% of their body is third degree? Like,
Well, that's why they
I
die.
can't imagine.
That's why they die. Yeah.
Just from the pain.
Infection. Yeah.
Oh,
just that feeling of like, forget
Oh,
your
it's
finger
awful.
burning. It's like your legs, your arms, your chest.
Well, they put a lot of those people in comas. Like it's like
Yeah, the
because you
pain would
can't
be brutal.
you can't deal with the pain.
And that heat just radiating from you. Yeah, that's probably I don't like burning myself.
and you would call that a kitchen glitch.
Well, it was a glitch of some sort.
It was a mind
And I
glitch.
was in the kitchen.
a mind glitch in the Matrix.
Yeah.
I mean, you've cooked, Chad, in lots of kitchens, your own kitchen and professionally. You do lots of cooking. I do as well. We've all cut ourselves, I'm sure, in the kitchen.
It's a rite of passage, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I remember I had just sharpened all my knives, and I said to my wife, "Be careful! I just sharpened the knives; they're super sharp." She goes, "Yeah, no problem." And what do? I grab one of the sharp knives and I'm chopping up. I think it was like carrots or something. Talking to my wife at the same time, and I go right through, and I feel that sensation, and I look, and there's a quarter of my tip of my finger on the cutting board, like cut it shear off.
Yep.
And I'm just like, oh my God, I
did the
cannot
same.
believe. And it's that instantaneous feeling of how stupid am I? I cannot believe I just did that. Even after telling my wife, careful, they're sharp. And then I did the same thing. And I basically put like a tourniquet on my finger, like elastic bands, because it would not stop bleeding. And I'm like, there's nothing I can do about it. They're not going to reattach this little corner of my finger at emerge. So
Very true.
I just, it took a long time to heal, and it's still missing a bit of a finger there.
I did almost the exact same thing, but working in a kitchen professionally, like a prep cook or something, professionally.
Professionally.
Yeah.
Sous chef.
That's right. And those, I don't know what they call them, but it was like a K-tel type product, but it has like the big V blade, and it's got the thing that looks like a hat.
A mandolin.
Yeah, mandolin. You put the vegetables in it, you know, slice them with that thing. Anyways, so I'm slicing, what's it?
I love how you say
radishes.
professional. I was like professionally cooking at my, that V thing that.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't remember what it was called. That was a long time ago. Not that big of a deal.
It slices, it dices.
That's what chops and mixes. No, it was the mandolin.
Yes.
And I was slicing radishes really thin for salads. And when you put them in this little hat thing and you're slicing, once they get down to a small amount, like it doesn't work anymore. And so me and my wisdom, I decided to pull it out of the little hat thing.
Oh, and use your fingers.
I'll just do the last few.
Two extra little slices that
the
means
the
so
last
much.
few slices.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to waste anything, Chad.
And I, like you, took third of my finger off, just right on.
Someone
right
got.
into the
Did you
bowl.
find the finger though? That's
Oh
the
no,
important.
we did. Okay. But I remember, like you said, it wouldn't stop. It wouldn't stop bleeding. And I remember the chef at the time, who was quite a hard-nosed guy about, you'd have to have, leprosy if you weren't going to come to work, kind of thing. And he said, "You're fine. I've cut off half my hand and I still worked." And I'm like, okay. And I remember having this, like a big saran wrap ball around my finger with a whole bunch of elastics. It was just this big bag of blood, and I was working in the kitchen because he wouldn't let me go home.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what was the name of that restaurant again?
I honestly, I'm not sure. I think it may have been actually. What was the one called on Warncliffe? There?
You don't have to tell us.
Yeah,
It's okay.
Well, it's closed now, anyways. I think it was Black Angus, actually.
Oh,
Yeah, I think so.
I always find that when you cut your finger in the kitchen, and if it's like a good size cut, there's that moment where obviously you feel it, you see it, but there's no blood. You just see like the knife whoosh, slice right through
but then
there.
it starts to-
and then
then
your
it
skin
starts.
opens up, and you're just like, oh, and you get this feeling of like, I don't know what that feeling is.
It's
but,
tingle tip.
Yeah.
It's
and
that.
then all of a sudden, like, oh my God, that is a bad cut.
Yep.
And then you're like putting your hand under water, and then that starts kind of stinging. And
Yeah, then you pull it out of the water, and it just keeps.
oh yeah, the blood just is nonstop. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you don't want to put it in the water because the force of the water is killing to put it in there, but you have to clean it out. It's awful.
Yeah.
So, we've been talking about cuts and stuff in the kitchen, but where else? When you were talking about kitchen, what'd you call it? Kitchen what?
Kitchen glitches.
Kitchen glitches.
Yeah.
So what else do you think of with the kitchen?
Well, this didn't happen in my kitchen, but years ago when I worked at A&W, so this is high school now.
Okay.
We had to clean out the fry traps, the greasers, the greasers, the
Fryers?
the fryers. Thank you. And those, like, they're heavy. When you fill up those big tubs with all that grease, they're heavy.
It's scary.
Yeah, and it probably should have been it was a 2-person job, but because you're young and you're stupid, you think, well, I can do it by myself. And I just remember doing that many times and relifting that thing up by myself and feeling like if I slip right now, I'm done. Like
gonna
I'm
get burned.
I'm pouring all of this hot grease on my torso.
Yeah.
So that always just scared me to think when I think back about that. But I remember one time we had just changed it, and my other coworker, I don't know what she was thinking. She obviously had a bit of a glitch in her brain, but we had just drained the grease into the big tub, and she then fills up a jug with hot water and proceeds to try to clean out the fryer with the water, and it goes right through and lands in the grease bucket. And water and grease do not mix, and it
bubbles
exploded.
over. Yeah.
And now we had hot grease all over the kitchen floor, and we're all trying to escape it. So that was definitely a kitchen glitch or a blunder.
Yeah, anytime you're working around hot grease, man, I'm like you. That is scary.
Yeah,
It was, I remember, I mean, you worked in kitchens too, Sven.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know if you ever had to change the fryers or not, but
I did. I used to pull that lever and have all the grease go in, and then get on the side of the fryers. It'd be all like the burnt
You scrape it
crap.
off.
You scrape all that gunk.
But did you ever lift up that thing by yourself and pour it back in?
I did.
It's so dangerous.
Even like I used to like walk and move out of the way, and it was like kind of like
I know.
Moving.
you're
and
waiting
it's
for like a handle to break off.
And I hate to say it, but the floors in the kitchens are usually kind of greasy too,
And slippery.
by the fryers, and so it's kind of
That would never happen today with all the legislation.
No.
But
so there'd be some kind of a lid containment thing.
Nowadays it's a pump, I think, for the most part, and they
But it
just
goes
put it in
in a
there
holding tank,
exactly,
and then it pumps it
back
back.
in so that
Just
you don't
scary
so
when
you
you
don't
think
have to
about
lift
it.
them out.
Like,
It's
we-
super
well,
scary.
especially us, we were like 16.
yeah, 14, 16.
Yeah.
Here, just empty this fryer. No training.
Didn't know any better.
No.
Yeah,
Well, along that same lines, Wade, I remember working at, if you remember Honeyhuckers back in the day,
I do. Yeah.
working there with somebody, and same thing. You strain all the oil out of the fryers through a strainer basket into another gigantic, tub, and then once you strained it, you close off the fryer and you dump it back in and start the whole process over again. Well, the fellow who was doing it, he was standing right beside me. He strained it all out and he was getting ready to dump it in. He forgot to close the big valve at the bottom. So literally, as he was pouring it in the top, that hot oil was coming right back out the spout at the bottom, and literally just all over the front of his legs and onto his shoes and everything. I mean, he literally jumped
Out of his
left
shoes.
his shoes behind. Yeah,
Oh my god.
that had to be a horrible burn. I never saw after the fact what happened. He went home.
Oh
But
God,
that's horrible.
pain.
Well, the chef didn't say no. I've burned half my body and I still work.
He didn't have the same chef.
I've
as I did.
disintegrated my whole foot off. They're fine.
That's right.
Yeah, that's awful.
That was a really bad burn. Mm-hmm. I remember that.
So I know you talked earlier, Wade, about like the sharp knife in the kitchen and cutting yourself. I don't know if you guys have ever done this, but maybe I'm just really lazy. But there's been times like I try to keep sharp knives in my house because I hate having a dull
biggest pet
dull
peeve.
knife.
I don't like it either. Yeah.
But there's some times where I grab a wrong knife or, I don't know. There's everything else is dirty and I just reach in. And have you ever like tried to cut like a tomato specifically and you've got a knife that's not sharp
A dead knife, yeah.
and you're just like mangling it, but you're too lazy to go see if you can find a different knife?
Well,
or
because you
even-
got to walk 3 feet to the
Yeah.
cut to the drawer, right?
But I've on many occasion have just tried to muscle through it and like squish the shit out of my tomato because I didn't want to get action.
You ever cut a fresh baked loaf of bread, but you don't have a serrated bread knife, so you're just using like a regular butcher knife, and the thing is about an inch tall when you
But then you just you pull it and you stretch it back into shape.
you stretch it back.
It's got a few more holes in it. It just aerates it out a little bit.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've done that before. I have a nice little tomato knife now, though. It's serrated, a thin little serrated tomato
I don't
knife.
like the serrated knives.
For tomatoes?
No.
Oh, they work
Oh,
great.
they work way better.
Really?
Yeah.
Just a really sharp knife?
It's
Yes.
meant for tomatoes.
Yeah.
It's actually a
serrated
tomato.
knife works beautiful on tomato slices.
Really?
Yeah.
It's very, very thin knife. Looks like a little steak knife, but it's for tomatoes, and it cuts it really, really well.
Well, for Christmas, you can get me one of those.
I will. Yep, I will.
I love when I like to cook, as we all do, and you like to experiment. And sometimes you think, oh, I've got this idea for a recipe. And I remember I worked somewhere and I forget, but they did an apricot stuffed pork. And I remember tasting it. It was so good. And so I said to Missy, it was when we were living in our first house. I said, I think I'm going to try that apricot stuffed pork. So I bought a pork loin, had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I was just breadcrumbs and apricots. And I just made this big mushy ball of fruit concoction. And I shoved it in the pork and we cooked it. And I don't think either of us got through one bite of it because it was so disgusting. But you're just experimenting and you don't.
Yeah. So similarly, I think I was probably 25 or so, and I was big into making sauces. You guys know, like mushroom sauce and different sauces for
lemon sauce.
Yeah, for chicken and stuff. But I thought, well, I mean, I think I went to like the bulk barn and got. It was that mix of like dried fruit and stuff. You could get like a mix of dried apricot and banana, and it was all the stuff in a bag. It was all different. You know what I'm talking about?
Papaya.
Papaya, apple, like it was all dried
banana
fruit in a bag.
chips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Okay.
took it all and I'm like, that's got to be good for a sauce. And I threw it in the pan and I had like broth and heated it up. And yeah, it wasn't good. Yeah. In the end, it didn't work out the way I thought it was going to work out.
All that stuff is like dehydrated.
And I thought I would rehydrate it. But no, it didn't work out so well.
I remember I don't know if this is really a kitchen blunder, but I remember inviting somebody for dinner first time to our house and our old place up in Burr. And I was barbecuing. And that was that time when we had just moved in and there was still like this really disgusting yellow shag carpet that was on the stairs going up.
I think I know
and
this story.
Maybe you do.
I think I do.
And I went out and like supper was just taking a long time. And I pull everything off as I go get it. I put it on the plate. I come from outside from the barbecue and I'm walking upstairs to bring everything up to the kitchen. They're sitting waiting. And suddenly, I'd asked everybody, oh, do you want cheese? Do you not want cheese? Whatever. And so this particular burger, was for the guests, and I lost my footing and I dropped and like his burger flew like upside down, face down onto the like grungy 30-year-old carpet.
Did it have cheese on it?
No, it had cheese on it. That's
Not when he picked it up.
No, literally the cheese.
He got just a regular burger.
The cheese was a little bit stuck to the carpet. But I remember like looking down and thinking, this is taking so long already. I'm kind of looking at it and like, anybody looking? And I pulled it up and I kind of rearranged the cheese and put it back on the bun because I was like, I don't have time to cook another burger.
Are you still friends with that person?
I am actually. Just talked to him the other day, as a matter of fact.
Does he know this story?
I don't think so.
Well, he does now.
No, he doesn't.
Say his name.
If he's watching, no. If he's watching, he's realizing that he got the jacked up hamburger.
Didn't you tell me last time though that you made eye contact with Missy and you both were like, what do I do here? And then
with the burger.
Yeah, I thought you looked at her and then you just kind of went and just shrugged your shoulders.
I don't know. You'd have to ask her the question because I don't recall specifically, but I know that we were laughing about it at the time. She was like, "What are we going to do?" Like, just. I can remember in restaurants like somebody like the grill guy.
All the time.
He'd be like trying to flip a burger and it would fall onto the floor onto his shoe.
Put it back on.
And he would just like kick his shoe up and flip it back up in the air, get it on the grill.
Well, I know. I mean, it's awful, but that's why you take your chances. Like, how many times did someone come in at the very last, like 5 minutes before it closed at A&W in the mall? You're like, I'm not making a whole fresh burger. And then you look in the little grease container on the side of the grill and they've been sitting there for hours and they're all gross. It's like, well, I'll just rehydrate those babies with some oil and all good, right? Or they drop in the grease trap and you pull it out and throw it back on the grill. Yeah, it's gross.
Spence, did you ever have stuff like that happen to you? Like were you mostly a dishwasher back in those days, or did you do cooking too?
I never did cooking. I was always just either like waiter or dishwasher or bartender.
Yeah. So what about, did you have any waiter mishaps or glitches? I'm sure you did, but
I'm sure I probably did too. Yeah, but I'm trying to think of ones. I don't know.
I know I splashed, well, I'll call it gravy. It was au jus essentially, all up the whole front of some lady's baby blue dress. Really? I did that one time. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever spilt any food on somebody.
That wasn't waitering. That was standing actually at a buffet table, with the glass and everything.
Yep.
And when I put the ladle, back in the thing, it took a huge splash from under the glass and just went all over her dress. It was.
And what did you do? Like,
So, of course, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Hang on, let me get some soda water." All of that. Well, she just started going off like right away. My husband's a lawyer. Like, okay, it was just an accident.
Really?
Like, seriously, that's the first words out of her mouth. And I remember going back to the owner at that time, Mike, and saying, "Mike, I've apologized. She's losing it. She's talking about a lawyer." And so Mike came out and he's like, "I'm so sorry this happened. We'll pay for the dry cleaning." She's like, "That's not good enough." He's like, "Well, you think I'm going to buy a new dress? Like, that's not going to happen." Mm-hmm. So he kind of did rescue me, I guess I will say, in that. But I felt very bad about it because it was a fundraiser dinner and she was there all dressed up nice. And
wow,
bit of a bummer.
Bit of an overreaction on her part.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
I have been at a restaurant and some clever person who was at the table before me thought it would be funny if they just, took a pepper shaker and unscrewed the top ever so lightly that it was just barely hanging on. And then the next person that grabbed it to try to put some pepper on, the lid just would fall and your plate was covered in pepper. That's happened to me. And I remember being so pissed off, like, who does that? Who actually...
But then you paid it forward and did it to someone else.
Oh, well, now everywhere I go, it's restaurants. I undo the salt and pepper shakers. That's like, it's paying it forward. No, I don't do that. But I have thought about it, though, because I was like, it was kind of classic. Because there's nothing you can do except...
That's poor taste.
You're just like looking in disbelief at your food that now it's covered in salt or pepper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you asked earlier, Chad, if I've done that. I think I have done that where I put too much pepper on, or a spice came out too fast or whatever, and then you're trying to fish it out of the dish.
Dust it off.
Yeah. It never works that well. It always tastes way too spiced.
So obviously, Wade, we've been touching on a bunch of things. I don't know what all you were wanting to cover there, but we've got sort of cutting yourself. We've got overspicing, pepper blunders. I don't know what you want to call it.
They're all kitchen, just things that happen in the kitchen, little blunders that you don't expect to happen. That's all. That was it. No agenda today. Just wanted to.
Yeah.
Can you tell?
Yeah. You really took a long time to think
I
about
really,
that one.
I really kind of stepped outside my comfort zone for that one. But
Yeah, no, it was
Kind
good.
of like podcast blender, I guess it feels like.
Yeah, it feels like a podcast blender. Hey, they can't all be gold,
No, that's
yeah,
true.
it can't all be Spencer. That's how it goes.
Wow. Thanks, bro.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You didn't detect the sarcasm in that?
No.
No. Well, that's part of your personality.
That's the... I've never heard you be so real.
Wow.
Anyway, fellas, thanks for that.
Yes.
I would like to say the same thing, but I'm not going to.
Well, you didn't like it. That's fine.
No,
That's,
wasn't your best topic.
I look forward to what your next topic is.
Oh, you're going to love my next topic.
Well, we'll see about that. Anyway, folks, see you next time on Pro Bono.
Ciao.
See you guys.